5 major house builders are changing the way they sell new leasehold flats, at least in England. They're scrapping ground rents, which cost hundreds of pounds a year. They're selling at least some homes with much longer leases, and at least one developer is letting leaseholders from the management company to run their own building. Well, live now to talk to Sebastian O'Kelly of the Leasehold Knowledge Partnership, who campaigns for leasehold rights. Sebastian O'Kelly, 5 developers have said they'll make some changes. Take us through the significance. What about ground rents? How important are they?
Well, they're massively important. They're the only legitimate income stream in the whole leasehold sector. Remove them, which is what is happening now as they're imploding, and that stream is ended. You're just left with padding the service charges and fiddling insurance commissions, which no bank will lend on. So it's a hugely important move, this.
What about the extension of the lease? Because normally they're, 99, sometimes 125 years. At least one developer, Barratt, has said 999 years. Well, that's practically owning it, really, isn't it?
It's a great improvement. I mean, all leases should be sold at 999 years. Anybody who's selling leases at 99 or 125 years is having an eye on the lease extension business, which is hugely important and very much weighted in the freeholders' favours. But it's excellent that this has happened. I mean, ground rents were an established, wholly justifiable income stream in somebody else's home last week. And this week, they aren't.
And just explain what a leasehold extension is. What is that market that you mentioned?
Well, a leasehold extension, even if you've got a fair number of years, like 500 years on your lease, if you get a 90-year lease extension, you can set the ground rent to 0. It does cost money, but it's a way of getting out of the ground rent, and it makes your flat sellable again. So it's the way of removing ground rent, a lease extension in many cases.
Yes, but also if you've got a 99-year lease and you're coming towards the end of it and you want to sell your flat, you're 20 years into it, you have to extend it in order to sell it. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. And the developer that created that lease in the first place would have known perfectly well that there would be this income stream, and the freeholder would have bought it and be very anticipating that revenue. And
just briefly, management of the flats to be given to leaseholders, is that important?
It's very important, and it's interesting what Barratt is doing at this North London site. No ground rent, 999-year leases, membership of residence management company. The open question is, what are they going to do with the freehold, which is now rather valueless without ground rent? They might as well give it to their customers, the leaseholders that have bought their product after all. Nobody reputable is going to buy that freehold. Only their shark in the auction.
As Sebastian said, Barratt Developments was the first to announce it's to scrap ground rents and offer 999-year leases on new flats. But VG bought her flat 5 years ago in an apartment block built by Barratt.
I feel betrayed, let down and disappointed because we are paying £300 a year. There will be an increase by end of 2021. Every 15 years, current projections, it will go up by 50%. It's not helping us at all because we are going to be tied up, even our children are going to be tied up in this kind of payment for the rest of our lives. When the property was built, we had 125 years lease. Anything below 100 years is kind of not has the same value. So you have to kind of have it top up so that it exceeds the 100 years lease. So we have to always kind of put money aside. So having a 999 is like, for the next 3-4 generations, you'll be fine.
So, Sebastian O'Kelly, a very important point by VG there. This is good news, as we've been discussing, for the future, but not for the 4.5 million people like VG who already own leasehold flats. Will Barratt or anyone else do anything for them?
Oh, well, we will see in time, but you're absolutely right, and she's right to feel betrayed by this. I mean, people who bought new flats last week which had ground rents, and now maybe the same block doesn't have ground rent. We're going to be extremely upset about this, and they've got good reason to be. Ground rents for no service whatsoever. So they were just a try-on, which the developers got away with.
And with these changes coming, at least from some developers, what would your advice be to people who are perhaps well down the road of buying a leasehold flat with ground rent?
Stop. Don't buy it. insist on having zero ground rents. Why on earth would you agree to creating an income stream for the next 1,000 years, say, that might pay out several million quid, 25 million quid at current rates of inflation, for £250 a year ground rent? I mean, it'd be insane to do this, so just don't do it.
Right, but the past people, like VG, they're stuck with their ground rent, their lease term, whatever it is. Is there a danger now that older flats, before the changes have come in, will be even more difficult to sell?
Well, this is a concern, but let's just be clear. There's 4.5 million leases in the country, and everyone is different with varying rates of ground rent. So this is going to take many years to have an effect. And leases anyway are a depreciating asset. You know, they run down. So as the market offers flats with no ground rents, those that still have them will depreciate. I mean, this was what happened in Australia. But it will take decades, I think, for this to really have an impact on a flat with a lease and ground rent, a moderate ground rent in Chelsea will still be worth a lot of money.
And looking ahead again, do you think other builders will follow suit? I think 5 have declared some sort of changes, like similar to Barratt's. Will all the others have to follow?
Yes, it's imploded. I don't think there's any way that even a small-scale builder will be able to get away with ground rents. They won't be eligible for the Help to Buy scheme anyway from next year. They're going to have to follow the rest. Ground rents are dead.
But and what's brought it about? Because last night the Housing Minister, Robert Jenrick, tweeted encouraging to see some builders cut ground rents on new homes, responding in part to our insistence that Help to Buy will only be available to those that do. Can the government take credit for this?
No, not really. The government's been pledged for 3 years to set new ground rents to zero, and it hasn't done so. More important than the government's intentions or the Help to Buy coming in next year, which in normal circumstances one would have expected a powerful house builder lobby to do away with, is the fact that house builders' reputations are being absolutely shredded by the Grenfell inquiry and the ongoing cladding catastrophe, which is wiping out a generation of first-time buyers. They're on the back foot. They know they've got to clean up their act. Ground rents were sort of a Mickey take too far, and they've been abandoned.
Right.
They should be taxed, indeed, to pay for cladding removal. That would be a very good use of them.
They're trying to get to be the good guys here. Now, is this enough to reform leasehold? I mean, in Scotland, for example, as I understand it, leasehold was abolished. They don't have it in Scotland.
Yes. They never really had it in Scotland in the same way that the English did. So it was always a very, very minor issue in residential property.
So it's easier to do. But what is the future of leasehold? Do you think that this will encourage the Law Commission, which of course is looking into it, and the government, which is looking into it? Will this encourage them to be a bit tougher in their proposals?
Absolutely. This is the biggest change to leasehold for 50 years. It means the only legitimate income stream is gone. Government is now pushing an open door to reform leasehold and to bring about commonhold, which is the form of tenure where people do actually own the building and a bit of the land, and is common to every other jurisdiction except for England and Wales, with a few tiny exceptions that don't bothering about. So it is a massive change. It is a massive change.
Sebastian O'Kelly, I'm sure we'll follow the developments of it. Thanks very much.